These are the 25 most disturbing prison moments ever caught on camera, starting with one of the most brilliant escape plans ever orchestrated: the escape of El Chapo from the Federal Social Readaptation Center No. 1, a max security prison in Mexico. The last time cameras saw him was close to the shower, an area with a perfect blind spot where the notorious El Chapo capitalized on his escape plan. And here you can see him pacing up and down like he's distressed with something on his mind. At some point, after leaning forward in the shower, he returns to take a seat on his bunk bed as if to take off his shoes. After he approaches the shower area again, he disappears. After about 25 minutes with no sighting of El Chapo, staff members went to look for him. It wasn't until they got to a cell that they discovered he was gone, and it looked like he escaped through a tunnel connecting the shower area to a construction site in the Santa Juanita neighborhood. The tunnel extended 33 feet below ground level, and what's more fascinating here is that it had its own artificial lights, air ducts, and seriously high-quality construction materials. What surprised authorities was seeing a motorcycle down there, probably used to transport materials, and even El Chapo himself, on his way out of the tunnel. But as fascinating and as disturbing as that video may seem, this next one, with Malika Calhoun, is just as shocking as can be. November 2018, Calhoun was apprehended and confined in a cell located within the suburban SeaTac City Hall. And after being brought in for an auto theft investigation, one of the deputies assigned to the case, Paul Sheen, was said to have a problem with her attitude. Paul was getting irritated with her stubborn behavior, and after being placed in a cell, he asked her to remove her shoes. What he didn't know was that Malika had her own plans. And in video footage, we can see her kicking one of the shoes outside, and immediately after, Officer Paul swiftly moves towards her, pushing her back against the wall. Following that, he forcefully presses the girl against the wall and proceeds to slam her to the floor by seizing her hair. At this time, a second deputy enters the holding cell as Paul maintains his hold on the girl, keeping her face down on the floor. Unlucky for Paul, the video shows him forcefully hitting the girl before picking her up and taking her out of the holding cell. But here's where things get interesting. Malika was never charged with a crime, so Officer Paul's show of force was taken as an assault. And because of this, Paul Sheen was charged with 4th-degree assault, while the second officer in the video wasn't charged with anything, simply because he was a trainee. On to the next one. This is what we call Hatching a Plan of Escape by Rustam Shahrudinov. A somewhat amazing moment where this Houdini-like prisoner who had been placed in custody on charges of theft manages to escape from jail through this tiny hatch used to put food into his cell. Now the footage catches the breathtaking moment. The man slowly wriggles through the tiny hatch an inch at a time. He eventually manages to drop to the floor on the other side of the cell, after which he then puts his hands back inside to retrieve his clothing and shoes, dressing himself, and then walking off down the corridor. The daring escape happened in the town of Izbirbash, in Russia's southwestern Republic of Dagestan, where he was held. But when he realized that the serving hatch might be large enough to escape through, he then seized the opportunity at 4 p.m. when the guards were apparently not paying attention to make a break for it. And of course, the red-faced prison officials were disappointed, and said disciplinary action will be taken against the wardens who were on duty at that time, especially as the escape bid was clearly visible on security cameras that obviously nobody was looking at. Such laxity. However, media said that this man was a cat burglar and was well known for squeezing his way into flats through tiny window spaces. So for him, this was like a walk in the park. And now we can see that Rustam Shahrudinov and Leonid Grazer shared the same vision of escaping through narrow spaces, but they didn't share the same success story.
You see this chaos break out in the courtroom.
As crazy as that was Leonid Grazer, an 18-year-old attempting to flee while facing trial for the killing of his sister. Now, the trial happened in Shebernsky District Court in Moscow, Russia. In 2019, Grazer with his sister Ariada Karol lived together and had what could have been described as this ideal relationship. However, Grazer began to confuse reality with hallucination, alleging that he was commanded by Satan to commit the murder. During the trial, shocked bailiffs observed Leonid attempting to wriggle his body through this narrow space of the enclosure where he was confined. Approaching him, they asked him what he was doing, to which he simply replied, Nothing. Suddenly, Grazer made a swift attempt to slip his slender body through a small opening in the box's ceiling, almost succeeding in escaping. They tried to subdue him by striking his legs with batons, but he proved resilient. Fortunately, one bailiff managed to grab his leg firmly, enabling another bailiff to taser him down. Once they subdued him, he proceeded to confess fully, explaining how he believed the murder was a ritual to rid himself of the demon he claimed possessed him, and how it needed to be done. And now we can safely say that this man probably needed some mental evaluation. And talking about mental evaluations here, what would you say about this shocking video captured the moment this Arkansas man named Joe Delgado, who claimed he was injured during an arrest, made an apparently miraculous recovery when he jumped out of his wheelchair and escaped from police on his way to court. Pretty insane, right? March 14th, 2022, 41-year-old Joel Sanchez Delgado was being escorted to a court for a routine appearance on drug trafficking charges when he bolted from a sheriff's deputy and triggered a manhunt. Now, in that video obtained from a Pulaski County deputy's body cam, Delgado appeared to be saying,
"What'd you say, OJ? My shoe." Hey, you see a shoe back there?
That distracted the deputy as he was forced to turn his attention to Delgado's supposed missing shoe, allowing the inmate to leap over the railing and escape. However, his freedom was short-lived as he was caught several hours later and charged with felony escape, in addition to the many other crimes he was accused of committing. Moving on, May 29th, 2021, footage from the inside of a prison facility in Arizona caught the moment inmates were calling the shots at an alleged deal going on while prison wardens were held hostage.
You're about to see officers being held against their will inside a stairwell, and afterward, no inmates received any discipline.
One acts as a lookout while these shady deals take place, and the others dressed in orange act like nothing's happening. After some time, the sheet to one cell comes down after two officers walk into the area. One officer goes inside to grab the sheets while the other inmates inside walk toward the stairwell of the area. One inmate stops both officers in a bid to create a distraction, while the other one goes on to carry out that deal on a higher floor of the cell block. Now, while all that's going on, more than a dozen inmates intercept officers in and around the area, trying to make sure the deal goes as planned.
Now looking at two officers stuck in the stairwell, blocked from getting out.
By all standards, this is a hostage situation.
Meaning they're held somewhere without their will.
Other officers then enter the facility, making the inmates release the officers they held captive. One inmate even tried shutting the door to the main facility to prevent backup from gaining access. In the end, no one was hurt, but at the same time, representatives from ABC Arizona who obtained the footage are questioning why no disciplinary measures were taken against these inmates for holding those officers hostage. Their guess is that this could just be one of those Arizona prisons where sometimes the inmates call the shots, and officials just let them.
It's confirmed.
Wait, was anybody disciplined for this?
No, they were
Inmates. Were any inmates disciplined?
No.
June 8th, 2022, 37-year-old Melissa Cordwell attempted a brazen prison escape from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. She was being brought in for misdemeanor theft and forgery charges after she allegedly cashed a check for $200 and stole cases of Bud Light from the Shell station. But around 3 p.m. on the said day, Melissa was making a phone call from the waiting area when she noticed other individuals who were officially being released. So she would try to join in, slipping out of her inmate attire and blending in with the crowd. Immediately, though, a manhunt was launched with pictures of her blonde hair and blue eyes circulating posters around the street. And within 24 hours, she was recaptured and charged with additional convictions. The judge gave her bail on $115,000 based on her new charges. Crazy, I know, but it's not every day you get to see prisoners documenting their escape. But that's exactly what happened in this leaked prison footage from Orange County, California. 3 inmates shot this video as they made their daring escape. Bak Duong, Jose Nayeri, and Jonathan Tew documented their every move on a contraband cell phone as they broke out of this max security dorm room at Orange County Central Men's Jail in January 2016. Authorities said that with the help of Lak Ban Yagin, a longtime friend of Duong's, the 3 inmates were able to obtain the supplies they needed to escape. They would saw through obstacles, wriggle through air vents in a dormitory-style housing, and worked their way through plumbing tunnels to the roof of the jail. They then went down with makeshift ropes, and Lak Ba picked them up and drove them to a contact of Duong's in Westminster. From there, they would call an unlicensed cab driver, Long Ma, who took him first to motels in Rosemead and later San Jose, where Duong and Nayeri got into a fight. Duong decided to part ways and brought Ma back with him to Orange County to surrender. In a video, you can see one of the men disappear through a vent and give a thumbs up to the camera. You can see these guys taking tourist-like photos with their taxi driver who drove all three away. Nevertheless, the two remaining inmates were recaptured after an 8-day manhunt. But unlike those three, Curtis Williams met his demise in the most bizarre footage ever caught within a prison. March 27, 2021, a riot breaks out at Oklahoma County Detention Center, led by Curtis Williams, a 34-year-old inmate, and two others. The situation escalated until they grabbed jailer Daniel Mesquez as a hostage. For Williams, incarceration didn't mean sobriety, despite convictions for rape and gun possession. This turmoil began when prisoners complained about conditions, including lack of water and inadequate meals. Two inmates with Williams streamed the hostage situation online, while others vandalized the facility. Mesquez suffered severe beatings and stabbings before being rescued by authorities, alerted by social media viewers. Williams was fatally shot while holding a knife to Mesquez's neck. Mesquez was promptly taken to the hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. Williams' death was the fifth in the jail that year, a jail known for its high turnover, overcrowding, and escape attempts. As scary as Curtis's fate was, Joe Sape and Willie Ames' driver were lucky enough to meet a lesser but more ridiculous fate in this next footage. June 4th, 2018, two inmates, 38-year-old Shane Joe Sape and 24-year-old Willie Ames' driver, were disposing of trash under supervision when they abruptly bolted from the prison yard, managing to escape from the Houston County Jail. During the incident, the two were taking out trash at approximately 8 p.m. After discarding the garbage, they turned the corner around a large dumpster, briefly evading their supervisor's view. Seizing the opportunity, they both swiftly escaped, sprinting at high speeds. An outdoor cam spotted their dash across the open prison lawn towards a wooded area before they vanished from sight. They were both eventually apprehended at different locations and under different circumstances, further extending their time behind bars and compounding their already troubled fate. This next one was pretty tragic, born out of sheer negligence, resulting in the tragic demise of Christopher Lopez. March 17, 2013, Chris Lopez, age 35, passed away at the San Carlos Correctional Facility in Pueblo, Colorado. Now, despite experiencing seizures, prison personnel neglected his symptoms and secured him to a chair, presuming his lack of responsiveness was deliberate. This occurrence was captured on 6 hours of video footage. Corrections personnel, including guards, nurses, and a mental health clinician named Cheryl Neumeister, can be heard engaging in conversation, jesting, and laughing while Lopez's condition deteriorates. A corrections officer identified as Jaime Gutierrez Gonzalez instructed him to come to the door through a food tray slot.
Hey, Lopez. Lopez, it's Gonzalez here, man. Are you doing all right? Hey, Lopez, look up at me. I just want to make sure you're doing all right.
Gutierrez Gonzalez then warned Lopez that failure to comply would result in forced entry into that cell, during which he would be pepper sprayed. An hour after Lopez was seen on the floor, a team of 6 officers would come in, and despite no resistance, they ordered him to stop resisting, disrobed him, and restrained him to a wheeled chair with chains and cuffs, while covering his head with a black mask. 3 hours later, he suffered a seizure witnessed by guards who did nothing to intervene. After a second seizure around 9:10 a.m., he died. It took 15 minutes for personnel to confirm his death. His family sued Colorado for negligence, settling for $3 million. Nonetheless, let's move on from that tragic loss resulting from negligence to Amber Gonzalez, slipping through her handcuffs while making her grand escape from the Waukesha County Jail where she was held for theft. Now here she's handcuffed to the wall of the holding area in the station and left unattended for a short period. Fearing the prospect of being separated from her children, Gonzalez managed to slip out of her handcuffs and attempted to unlock the holding room door, which was secured. After searching, she discovered a set of keys hanging on the door handle, which she used to open that door and flee from the police at around 4:40 p.m., taking the keys with her. This woman was running through backyards in the neighborhood, and eventually she reached the Tobacco Outlet Plus Groceries convenience store on Pewaukee Road, but was eventually caught and arrested, and set to be released on a $500 signature bond. Despite the thrilling nature of her escape making a rebound, Danilo Cavalcante was no different, as this convicted murderer made a daring prison escape by chimneying. At approximately 9 a.m. on August 31, 2023, Cavalcante managed to escape from the Chester County Prison by chimneying or crab walking between two closely situated walls in the exercise yard. He would ascend the roof and navigate around the razor wire fencing to successfully flee the prison. Remarkably, this escape occurred just 1 week after Cavalcante had been convicted and sentenced to life in prison for the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Deborah Brandow. But 8 a.m. on the morning of September 13th, nearly 2 weeks after his escape, authorities found Cavalcante sleeping with a rifle he had stolen from a residence. It took the intervention of a Belgian Malinois, trained by the police, to apprehend him by biting his head and maintaining control until law enforcement arrived. And while some inmates only think about how to escape, others, like Bridget Harvey, only have the ability to put the lives of others in danger. June 7, 2022, at approximately 1 a.m., Bridget Harvey, a 42-year-old inmate at Hillsborough County Detention Center, approached Deputy Lillian Jimenez, informing her that another inmate required assistance from a deputy. As they proceeded to the women's bathroom to conduct a welfare check on 37-year-old April Colvin, an unfortunate incident occurred. These two were obvious criminals, with Harvey approaching Deputy Jimenez from behind and attempting to strangle her by placing a pillowcase around her neck. During the course of the attack, fellow inmates rushed in to aid the deputy. They swiftly removed the pillowcase from her neck and released her, until ER teams arrived shortly after. Before the team got there, Jimenez sustained minor injuries to her neck and throat. The team promptly restrains Harvey and escorts her away from the scene. Later, Harvey confessed to orchestrating that attack, revealing her intention to use a comb that she had sharpened on both ends with her teeth to stab Jimenez. It's pretty crazy, we know, but Tanner Jacobson and Cody Howard showed us in this footage why making split-second decisions without thinking can turn out pretty dumb and dangerous. October 16, 2018, Jacobson and Howard, two inmates charged with driving with suspended licenses and other offenses, appeared before Judge R.W. Buzzard in court. However, within the twinkle of an eye, Cody and Tanner executed a daring escape, fleeing from the courtroom and darting through the halls while still handcuffed. Faced with no alternative, Judge Buzzard takes off his robe and pursues them. Howard initially takes the lead, but his sandals slip off and he stumbles and falls in the hallway. Despite the setback, he quickly regains footing as Jacobson surged ahead. The two head down flights of stairs before forcefully opening a fire exit leading outside. However, the judge manages to apprehend Howard before he could make a significant headway, while deputies capture Jacobson just a few blocks away. We sure hope they did learn their lesson on that one. Seeing an inmate trying to escape is pretty common, maybe surprising, but it's unsettling to see a prison official like Kawana Jenkins risking her reputation for a romantic involvement with an inmate. March 22, 2023, female detention officer Kawana Jenkins was arrested after an inappropriate video of hers went viral on X. The video showed her engaging in lewd acts with an inmate. In the footage, she's sitting down in a facility office with the inmate holding the camera as she's sucking on his fingers. Then they had a brief conversation before the video abruptly stopped. Jenkins' behavior faced severe condemnation, leading the Fulton County Sheriff to order a raid on the inmate's cell in response to the leak. Here's where it gets better. When they found that phone, it had another incriminating video of her kissing the inmate while seated on his lap. In this same video, she would give him luxury Cartier eyeglasses, valued at hundreds of dollars, further inflaming her already tarnished career. As a result, Miss Jenkins here was sacked by the Department of Corrections and subsequently arrested. Now for inmates, it's all about that escape plan. And in this video, we have another daring 25-year-old man named Michael Maldonado from Portage County in Ohio, making a really funny escape after being left alone by a deputy in the back seat of his police car. Despite this criminal history, the only time he came into the public's eye was when the footage of this daring escape circulated on social media. In the video, Maldonado, arrested for resisting law enforcement, broke free from a police car and fled under a closing garage door. Surveillance captures him fleeing barefoot and handcuffed. Deputies and officers from neighboring agencies combed the area for approximately 2 hours, but were unable to locate him. Unknown to them, he had stolen a car in an attempt to flee the town, but his escape was short-lived as officers intercepted him and returned him to jail. And if we take Michael Maldonado's escape attempt and Benjamin Hutton Barbo's, we can see a difference in the use of a chopper in a grand style. March 17th, Benjamin Hutton Barbo takes prison break to a whole new level from the top of a prison in St. Jerome, northeast of Montreal. As we can see, there's a chopper on the rooftop of that prison with a pilot under duress. Then a rope is dropped for Hutton Barbo and Provencal to ascend. The pilot's attempts to assist by starting the chopper failed. After 6 minutes of struggle, the chopper finally lifts off, with the inmates clinging to the rope for their daring escape. Officers, seeing no way to stop this, could only watch through the security cameras. Yet, despite that elaborate scheme, their efforts were all in vain. After the chopper landed, Hutton Barbo and his accomplices headed to a getaway vehicle, only for Marchisio and Hutton Barbo to be located by the Sûreté de Quebec at a residence in Chertsey a few hours later. A shootout ensued, resulting in their eventual arrest. Audouin and the other escapee, Danny Provencal, were also apprehended shortly afterward. So let's segue over to corrupt prison official Serena Dotson. 3 Curry County detention inmates, Aaron Clark, Victor Apodaca, and Ricky Senna, managed to escape from the outdoor rec area of the detention center by going through 3 secured doors. In a video, these 3 inmates are casually walking at the back of an alley, making their escape. However, the true surprise came when investigators revealed the footage from the facility's control room, revealing Serena Dotson alone and visibly distressed over her actions. The 3 inmates remained at large for nearly a week before a standoff with Clovis police that led to their eventual apprehension. While Serena Dotson intentionally helped inmates escape, the prison officer in this next video did so without even knowing he was doing so. November 2009, a 31-year-old woman from New Orleans, Tori Smith, executed this classic Hollywood-style escape by slipping out of Central Jail without detection. Smith was brought into jail approximately 2 hours before her escape. In surveillance footage capturing the outside of the jail, where officers transfer custody to the jail deputies, the officer is seen entering the facility. While holding the outside door behind him and beginning to close it, he failed to shut it completely, thus preventing the locking mechanism from engaging. The officer repeated the same action with the interior door. Approximately a minute later, Smith, who had informed jail workers she needed to use the bathroom, is seen approaching a door leading to the transfer room. She pushed open that door, proceeded through it, and swiftly pushed open the exterior door of the jail building. Running down the 2800 block of Perdido Street, Smith is captured on an outside fence, but the remainder of her escape is obscured as she was seen running down the street, clearing that fence. A nurse from the jail had witnessed Smith climb the fence and promptly alerted deputies. However, she was eventually caught at Huntington Park Apartments on Crowder Boulevard the following day. Tori's attempt to escape could have seemed like a smart move at the time, but this escape attempt by Clavino da Silva might just be one of the most bizarre events in history. Looking at this video, you see a little girl being questioned by prison officials. But don't be fooled, that's Brazilian drug lord Clavino da Silva, dressed up like his little daughter, to escape his 73-year prison sentence. Da Silva puts on this costume and approaches the entrance, intending to pass as a visitor and escape. However, officials quickly noticed the comically fake silicone mask he was wearing and promptly apprehended him. Footage from Rio de Janeiro's Penitentiary Administration Secretariat revealed Mr. Da Silva being apprehended by guards. He was seen with a mask, glasses, a long black wig, jeans, and a pink t-shirt adorned with donuts. He gradually removes each piece of the disguise, ultimately struggling to peel off the mask. With a shaved head and tats on his arms, he was asked to identify himself, to which he responded with his full name. Now the true twist comes in 3 days later after this attempt. Clavino da Silva tragically takes his own life. He was found in his cell, hanging from his ceiling with bed sheets. This man really wanted to escape. Moving on to another daring escape from Derek Estelle that made law enforcement stunned and prison officials look dumb. July 28, 2013, 34-year-old Derek Estelle who was incarcerated on convictions of aggravated robbery, burglary, theft, breaking and entering, and fleeing, conspired with other individuals to distract deputies in order to escape from the Garland County Detention Center. William Harding, his alleged accomplice, began talking to deputies in order to divert their attention and have them go to the other side of the booking room to look up answers. Once deputies were away from the booking area window, Estelle, like in a Hollywood movie, would jump the counter and run out the door towards a tantalizing prospect of freedom. At this time, a woman identified as Tamara Upshaw was waiting in the parking lot for Estelle, with the passenger door open. As she drives away, a deputy tries to bust out the passenger window, but did so in futility. So some could say that Estelle got what many call a happy ending in that footage. But the same can't be said for Sael Angalau after his depiction of violent tendencies. April 21, 2014, a dramatic incident in this courtroom involving Angalau, a member of the Tongan Crips gang, as he was charged with assault, conspiracy, robbery, and weapons offenses dating back to 2010. Now Angalau unexpectedly rises from his seat, grabbing the attorney's pen and lunges over the witness stand towards another gang member who was restrained. The footage released to the public shows Angalau sprinting towards the witness and leaping over the stand with a pen in hand. A U.S. Marshal swiftly responds by firing 4 shots at Angalau, who fell back over the stand. The courtroom erupts in chaos, with cries of horror and law enforcement officers rushing to the scene. Angalau was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to his injuries, sparking controversy over the use of force. And now here things were kind of the same, but with a different situation. We have Esteban Carpio, and on April 17, 2005, Carpio was under interrogation by Providence Police Detective James L. Allen and another detective for the brutal stabbing of 85-year-old Madeline Gatta. During a moment where the second detective left the third-floor interview room to fetch water, Carpio seizes the opportunity to escape. Overpowering Detective Allen, he takes his gun and fatally shoots him twice. The incident occurred at Police HQ in Providence, Rhode Island, where law enforcement presence was abundant. After killing the officer, Carpio leaped from the third-floor window, sustaining injuries upon landing but managed to flee. Allen, a respected 27-year veteran of the force, triggered a massive manhunt. Carpio was apprehended nearly an hour later and brought back to the station for questioning, marking the start of a disturbing turn of events for him. Now, which do you think is more grievous? Killing a police officer in an attempt to escape, or attacking a trial judge due to frustration? On July 13, 2011, Melissa Hardwick, a 45-year-old woman from McCreary County, was given 128 days in jail for contempt after attempting to assault Judge Jennifer Upchurch Edwards in family court. Now, during a hearing on domestic violence charges involving her ex-husband, Hardwick repeatedly disrupted the proceedings despite the judge's warnings to remain quiet. As bailiffs moved to handcuff her for contempt, Hardwick escalated the situation by rushing towards the bench, attempting to grab the judge by her robe. Fortunately, 3 bailiffs intervened and restrained Hardwick, preventing any harm to the judge. Although the judge emerged unscathed, Hardwick sustained minor scratches to her face, and because of this, Hardwick faces charges including third-degree terroristic threatening, intimidating a participant in a legal process, and resisting arrest.